I'm Kurt Hemesath from the Lawler Historical Society. Today is July 1st, 2025. We're going to interview Alvina Hemesath. She's been living in Lawler since 1960. So, Mom, where did you grow up?
I grew up on a farm northeast of St. Lucas.
How big of a family did you have?
Came from a family of 12, 7 girls and 5 boys.
When did you first came to Lawler in 1960? Why did you and Dad move here?
We moved here because my husband was working at a lumber yard in Kelmer, and this manager at this lumber yard was retiring, and so they gave him a chance to manage the lumber yard. And so it was a difficult move in a way because this manager was here for a good 17 years, and it's hard to replace somebody when they are trusting somebody else that was their manager or their boss. But somehow we made it.
What was Lawler like when you first came in the 60s? I mean, was it a lot bigger or smaller?
Very much about the same, except there was a lot of empty buildings, old buildings on Main Street, and a hard place to find a place to live. We finally got a house that was being fixed up a little bit, and the house had only 2 bedrooms, but we had 3 children. So it seemed to work for a while, and then we found another house later that had 3 bedrooms, and we moved to that house then.
Where was that house located, Mom? Across the tracks, or?
Across the tracks. The first house was where a neighbor to Earl Straw's, and across the road was Reuben Swenson's.
Reuben and Vernis
Yes.
Swenson.
And so then when we moved from that, we moved to, well, in fact, the manager that used to be here owned a house about a couple blocks north, and we got to rent that house then.
And who was that? What was his name?
Paul Checkle was the manager here, and he went to New Hampton from here. So there was something else I was supposed to answer, wasn't it?
No, that's fine. How many children did you have?
When we came to Lawler, we had 3 children: Ken, Keith, and Karen. And when we, I'm trying to think where we lived when Kurt was born, then we went on we went on summer vacations once a week in July. It was more of a quiet time at the lumberyard, so we decided that was the time we could take off 1 week. So we went up to Alexandria, Minnesota 1 year for a vacation, and lo and behold, our youngest son decided to be born while we were up there. But to begin with, we went up there with our children, and our oldest one, Ken, had a sore throat, so we thought, well, we should take him to the doctor, because it would be a whole week if we don't do something about it. And so then when we went to the doctor with him, I said something to the doctor that I was having little problems, and our baby was not due until September. And so he just says, well, go home. Well, lo and behold, he decided he wanted to be born that night, but it was the last day of July. And I have to tell you, all our kids are born in July now. So that was quite an experience. We had to leave him up there then until Labor Day weekend. And so then we went back and picked him up then. So that was kind of quite a thing to go through. but somehow we all made it okay.
Where did the kids go to school?
We had lived in Kilmer before we came up here, and I think Ken and Keith went to the lower grades in Kilmer. Not sure what grade Ken would have been in when we came here. Probably in the 3rd grade, and so when we lived in Kilmer, there was no kindergarten class, so our kids did not get to go to kindergarten for that reason. But I think they made it out okay without that year.
When you came to Lawler, did they go to the public school or the parochial?
We went to the Mount Carmel Parochial School, which was across from the old church. And then, I forget which year it was, the school burned down.
68, I think.
68, was it? Yeah, okay. And so then they opened the public school.
Excuse me, 63.
Okay, yeah, okay. And so they went to that school then. I mean, that was still the Mount Carmel Parochial School, but it was the old public school.
What were some of the businesses you remember? There's not many left on Main Street. Do you remember some different businesses?
Not really. I know Leonard's Variety Store. That one year I did my Christmas shopping in that store. Did not buy anything else out of town for Christmas, just what came from that variety store. And so that store is not here anymore. And there was how many taverns, much more than there is now. And let me see.
How about grocery stores?
Grocery stores?
There was the Myers Locker, or I think it was Myers at that time. And then there was a Casey and Griffin. And I thought Connor's store, yeah. The big brick building on the corner where Kohlmeyer built his building now.
Yep. Did you know Frank Eichhoff when you first moved to town?
Yes, very much so. Did not know he had that wealth with him, but I remember one day our oldest son went down to get the mail, and when he got to the post office, there was an elderly guy there, and so my son held the door open for him. And when he did that, he went in his pocket and gave him a dime. And so I didn't realize at that time who it was, but we found out it was Frank Eichhoff. So
when did you and Dad buy the lumber yard?
we bought it in '68. Yes. It used to be J.F. Anderson, and they were kind of getting rid of their lumber yards, and so the chance came about. So Eddie went and acquired an SBA loan to get the money, because we couldn't get it from the bank, enough of it, so that we purchased it that way.
Did you have any experience working at the lumber yard at all, or did you work there before?
Not really. I did not work there until, I forget, the latter years when we worked for J.F. Anderson. I worked just part-time, but when we bought the lumber yard, I just worked kind of full-time for the lumber yard then. And so that was quite an experience. Never having a job before. It was nice though, because I lived close to home and I could run home once in a while and put a load of wash in the washer, and come back later and put it in the dryer.
What were some of your dishes? Duties. What were some of your duties?
At the lumberyard, I was usually the main one that sold paint. If I wasn't at the lumberyard and there was some lady or somebody would come in and want paint, and then Eddie would always call me and say, well, could you come down and help to sell some paint? So then that's what happened lots of times, because when it was kind of quiet, I would go home and do some of my housework, and then I'd go back to work. But my main job was selling the paint and just keeping the place clean and some bookwork.
When did you guys build some homes up by the water tower then, later on?
Yes, we did. I don't know just how we got started, but I think we built our first house in '63. And that we built it for resale. That was my husband's intention, that he would build a house and he would build it and for resale to make some money. And so that's what we did. So we were in this first house probably only 2 years, and Lee Connor came and offered to buy it from us, and I remember when he left, he says, well, sharpen your pencil, Eddie. And then we made a deal, and from then on we built more houses, because there was a need for houses in town. So, and the first year we were in Lawler, there was 7 houses going up in town. And one of them happened to be Roger Kroll's A-frame house. I remember that. But in the area we had 7 houses going up, so we were really busy. So.
And then did you say you bought Harry Kane's farm and built some other houses on the west end of town?
Harry Kane had land. He had steel bins on this lot, and so he finally made a deal with him, and he bought quite a few lots from Harry Kane then, and that's how we got started with the houses.
And did you and Dad also start the car wash and laundromat then?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did. In fact, our son Keith was going to college in Minneapolis, and he came home one weekend, and he thought that would be a good idea if we would do this. So him and my husband then built the car wash. So that was quite a procedure.
How many houses do you think you built in Lawler?
No, I have to think about that a little bit. We built quite a few. When we built that first house, then east of our house, Bob Arns and his wife built a house. And about the same time, Don Moshik built a house right next to, in that same area. And then John Kaut built a new house. So that was one whole block of new houses. Then you go across the street, and there was another house across from Don Moshik that we built. And I'm trying to think, John Kaut built those houses, and that house was sold to Frank and Helen Gable. And about that same time, next to, west of that house was a house built by John Kaut too, and that was Virgil Moshik's house. And then you go further west on the next same block, Johnny Lowen built a house. And I'm not sure I think that John Kaut did most of the carpenter work. And then you go where the green bins were. the first house was built, well, I'm not sure which one was built first. Well, okay, just a minute, I'll back up. Behind Harry Kane's house, we built a house for David and Elaine Croat. Then in that same block, we built another house, and that was sold to, I'm trying to think here now.
Farrell's.
Farrell. I forget what his first name was. And then south of that house was another house that we built, and that was sold to Francis and Linda Fisher. Then you go around the corner, and to the east of that Fisher house, we built a house, and that was sold to Chuck Erding and his wife. And then where Frank Hout's house is now, that is where Harry Kane had a large garden. And every year he would have a large garden, and he gave most of the stuff in the garden away. And that was his joy of doing things. And he was constantly in that garden hoeing or keeping it clean. So a lot of them got a lot of vegetables out of the Harry Kane garden, and he did this all himself. Then where the grain bins were, I'm sorry, I'll go back to that. That one house was, we sold that to Eddie Bustos. He came in from the country for a little turkey. And so then we had another house south of that house, at Bustos' house, and Delbert Kinnan came up and he said, he says, my neighbor moved to town, I think we'll move to town too. So then they bought the house that we had built, so Delbert and Marianne moved into that house. And then west of that Kinnan house was, we built that house, and Dale King bought that. He was not married at the time, and he bought that house. And then going west is Arnie Bonsteiner. We had that lot, and Arnie Bonsteiner and Ruth built that house then. And then there was Henry Fensel's house west, but that was operating when we came to town. And then when you go past, you go north from Henry Fensel's, there was an empty lot, and then Denny, Paul, and Mary built that house, and I don't remember who the carpenter was. It was somebody from New Hampton. But we did not have anything to do with that house because they bought the lot from Hank Fensel. And then going east of Fensel's, of Denny Paul's, Bob and Dolores Kubler built the house, but that was built after we sold the lumber yard. And then east of that house was Tom Leonard's house, and that was built too also after we had sold the lumber yard. And then across the street from Danny Paul's, we built a house, and Clem and Teresa Bating bought that house. And then east of their house is Adrian. We built a house for Adrian and Teresa Burst. And then east of that is the house of Pat and Joanne Costigan. And that's about all that I can think of right now. And then another block over, Carl Wurtzer built a house, but we were out of the business then, so. But right in that area, there was a lot of new houses. And I'm trying to think, okay, then you go from the DX station south. There is Cliff Ohm's house, that was up. Then we built a house for Donnie Keener and his wife, which is now somebody else lives in it now. And then we built a house for Claire and Bill Meyer. Claire and I forget what his husband's name was. And so we built that. And I'm trying to think, that's probably all the houses we built right in that area. So, and plus there was a lot of houses out in the country that we probably sold the lumber for, but I don't know who they all were now. So,
Do you remember when you quit selling coal?
yeah, when we quit selling coal, we had a scale at the lumberyard, and they took that scale out as we didn't need it anymore. But that was a lot of hard work. Because I remember one time when my husband was at the lumberyard in Cresco. That was his first place he started. Somebody delivered coal to a basement that did not order coal, and so they had to go back and shovel that coal out and put it in the truck.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a mistake somebody made, and somebody had to help.
When did you sell the lumberyard, and to whom?
We sold the lumberyard to Mill and Rod Reichs from New Hampton in
1978, I think.
78, I think yes, it was, yeah. So, and we had to sell it because my husband was having health issues, and it was getting too hard to keep going. So,
And then Donnie Kurtenbach bought it again in '81, the troubled times of the '80s.
yeah, right. In 1981, he bought the lumberyard from Mel Reichs then. So,
How long did you own the car wash then? Did you keep that, or?
well, finally, when my husband had a stroke and was a bed patient at home for a year, we just felt we had to get rid of it because no help. My son at the time that was in business with us at the car wash was not available. He was going to school or working elsewhere, I forget where. And so we sold the car wash to, was it Ronnie Kinnan?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
Ronnie Kinnan then, and he ran it for a while. And now it's run by Roger Dreckman.